I worked really hard. I had a huge showcase in 93. We had stage, lighting, clothing. And back then, you got to remember, it was crisscross, it was TLC, hat to the back, everything was, cross colors.
Yeah.
And so my girls were beautiful. They were young, sexy, and beautiful. And nobody liked them. Nobody liked them.
Yeah.
Puffy didn't like them. Kenny didn't like them. Clyde Davis didn't like them. Because they thought they were too fast. They thought they were too sexy. These young girls, they're too fast. Nobody's going to really, go to them because everything's hip hop and blah, blah, blah.
The internet didn't expect this chapter to reopen, but history doesn't stay buried when the receipts start whispering. Because once the words Diddy, marriage, and Beyoncé showed up in the same conversation again, timelines stopped scrolling and started remembering. This wasn't a rumor fresh off Twitter. This was an old industry story dragging itself back into the spotlight. Like it never left. Fans weren't shocked because Beyoncé is Beyoncé. They were shocked because of when this allegedly happened. Destiny's Child era. Before the crowns, before the empire. Back when power in the industry moved differently and gatekeepers didn't hide as well. This wasn't about romance. This felt like ambition wrapped in access. Influence disguised as affection. And once people started revisiting old interviews, side comments, and behind-the-scenes dynamics, the story stopped sounding cute and started sounding calculated suddenly. The fairy tale of pop history felt like it had footnotes nobody read the first time. And when the past gets re-examined with modern eyes, everything looks louder, messier, and way less innocent. Because when legends are young, power doesn't knock politely. This story didn't come from nowhere. It's been floating around industry circles for years, usually brushed off as exaggeration, ego, or Hollywood talk. But when old narratives resurface at the same time, people are questioning power dynamics more openly. They don't land the same way. Context changes everything. Back in the Destiny's Child era, Beyoncé wasn't just a rising star. She was potential wrapped in discipline, talent sharpened by strategy, and a future everyone could see coming. Labels watched her differently. Executives talked about her differently. And people with power positioned themselves close to her orbit early. That's where Diddy's name enters the conversation. Not as a confirmed suitor, not as a fairy tale romance, but as an ambitious industry figure known for mixing business, influence, and personal interest without clear lines. Multiple past interviews and anecdotes have referenced his admiration for Beyoncé, often framed as respect, mentorship, or industry appreciation. But admiration looks different depending on who's holding power. What made the marriage? Rumor stick wasn't proof. It was plausibility. Diddy has never hidden his larger-than-life ego or his belief that proximity equals destiny. He's spoken openly in the past about seeing himself with women at the top of their fields. That mindset made the story believable enough to survive without confirmation. Fans started digging through old clips. Interviews where Diddy joked about Beyoncé's talent resurfaced. Red carpet moments were slowed down, paused, re-examined. Statements that once felt playful suddenly sounded strategic. When replayed through a modern lens, Beyoncé's silence on these rumors over the years didn't erase them. It insulated her. And insulation is often the smartest move in an industry that punishes women for reacting while rewarding men for talking. Destiny's Child's early industry environment also got re-examined. The power structures, the executives, the way young artists navigated rooms full of men twice their age with contracts thicker than their life experience. None of this was unique to Beyoncé, but her success magnified every interaction. The idea that marriage could be seen as a strategic alliance rather than romance isn't shocking in Hollywood. It's historical. Labels merged through relationships. Empires were built through proximity. And some executives treated personal access like a career move. That's what made this rumor uncomfortable instead of amusing. It wasn't about love. It was about leverage. Fans quickly pointed out the timing. This would have been before Jay-Z and Beyoncé became the untouchable brand they are now. Back when doors could still be closed on her, Back when control mattered more than consent in some rooms, supporters of Diddy argued the story was being exaggerated beyond recognition. That admiration doesn't equal intention. That Hollywood talk shouldn't be rewritten as sinister. Those arguments weren't wrong, but they weren't comforting either, because the conversation wasn't asking if Diddy proposed. It was asking why powerful men felt entitled to imagine futures for women who hadn't even reached their own yet. Beyoncé's career trajectory became part of the analysis. Her controlled image, her careful distance, her refusal to overshare. Fans started framing those choices not just as branding, but as protection. Armor built early and reinforced often. Destiny's Child members were remembered as young women, navigating an industry that consumed talent aggressively. Contracts, schedules, expectations, all heavy, all relentless. In that environment, even attention framed as praise could feel invasive. The internet didn't need confirmation to feel unsettled. It needed pattern recognition. Stories like this don't exist alone. They exist alongside dozens of similar whispers involving other artists, other executives, other eras. And that's why this rumor didn't die quietly. It lingered, waiting for a time when people would stop laughing and start asking better questions. By the end of the first wave, it was clear this wasn't about rewriting Beyoncé's story. It was about revisiting the industry that tried to write it for her. And once that door opens, it doesn't close gently. Once the story resurfaced, the internet did what it does best. It re-audited the past like it just unlocked a new DLC. Reaction videos popped up everywhere. Thumbnails screaming shock while pretending to be scholarly. Everyone suddenly became a Destiny's Child historian with a slow-motion button and a theory they were ready to die on. Memes hit first, but not the goofy kind. These were sarcastic, sharp, and oddly reflective. People joked that this made old pop fairy tales look like marketing brochures. Beyoncé's early career was suddenly framed less like a rise and more like a maze. She had to navigate perfectly to survive. Public opinion split clean down the middle. One side brushed the story off as exaggerated industry ego, saying powerful men always talk big and history loves drama. The other side wasn't laughing at all. They saw the rumor as another example of how young female artists were viewed as opportunities instead of individuals. Old interviews resurfaced immediately. Clips where Diddy praised Beyoncé's talent got replayed with new captions. What once sounded like admiration now felt layered. The internet didn't accuse outright, but implication did the heavy lifting. Tone became evidence. Timing became suspicious. Destiny's Child's early industry environment came under fresh scrutiny. Fans talked about how young the group was when they entered rooms full of executives with unchecked influence. The conversation shifted from gossip to power dynamics almost overnight. That shift changed everything. Celebrity reactions added fuel without clarity. Some artists posted cryptic messages about old industry stories and things people weren't ready to hear back then. Fans immediately connected dots whether they belonged together or not. When the internet locks into a narrative, everything feels related. .J-Z, single quotes as name, inevitably entered the chat, not as competition, but as contrast. Fans compared timelines, careers, and power shifts. Beyoncé choosing partnership on her own terms suddenly looked like a victory lap instead of a love story. Media outlets tiptoed carefully. Headlines leaned on words like rumors resurface and history revisited. Nobody wanted to accuse, but nobody wanted to ignore the traffic. That careful framing kept the story alive without confirming anything. What made this phase intense was how personal it felt to fans. Beyoncé isn't just an artist, she's symbolic. Revisiting her early career through a lens of industry pressure forced people to reconsider. How many women had to play chess while men played checkers? Supporters of Diddy pushed back hard, saying admiration doesn't equal entitlement and rumors shouldn't rewrite history. Critics responded by saying intent matters less than environment. The debate wasn't about one man, it was about a system that normalized blurred boundaries. Nicknames, jokes, and old quotes got dragged back into daylight. The internet doesn't forget anything once it decides context has changed. Even harmless moments felt heavier when placed. Next to power imbalance discussions, the tone across platforms shifted from curiosity to discomfort. People stopped saying that's wild and started saying that's unsettling. That change matters. Discomfort doesn't fade like shock. It lingers and reshapes perception. Beyoncé's silence stayed powerful. She didn't clarify, deny, or acknowledge the rumor. Fans read that silence as control, not avoidance. In an industry where reactions are demanded, refusing to engage can be its own statement. The story stopped being about marriage rumors and became about access. Who had it? Who wanted it? Who controlled it? Marriage was just the headline. Influence was the subtext by the time reactions peaked. The internet wasn't asking if the rumor was true. It was asking why stories like this sounded believable at all. That question hit harder than any confirmation ever could. The narrative had officially moved beyond gossip. It became reflection. And reflection doesn't go viral quietly, because once people start re-examining pop history through modern eyes, legends don't fall, but myths do. After the reaction wave crested and the memes cooled, the story didn't disappear, it recalibrated. This is the phase where pop culture stops yelling and starts filing mental notes. Not everything needs confirmation to change how it's remembered. Sometimes a rumor doesn't rewrite history, it reframes it. Beyoncé's legacy didn't T-wobble. If anything, it hardened. Fans didn't see her as a character in someone else's ambition. They saw her as someone who navigated an industry maze and still built a throne on her own terms. The conversation quietly shifted from what happened to what she avoided. That's a different kind of respect. Diddy's reputation absorbed another layer. Not because of proof, but because of accumulation. In the court of public opinion, stories stack. Each rumor becomes context for the next one. Silence doesn't end that process. It lets it age. Over time, aging narratives don't shout. They linger. Destiny's Child's early years became a case study, not a scandal reel, but a reminder of how young talent once entered rooms where power dynamics were unbalanced and expectations were unspoken. Fans revisited interviews with fresh ears and noticed how carefully the group spoke, how tightly their image was managed, how little room there was for missteps. The marriage rumor faded into the background, replaced by a bigger takeaway. Access was currency. Who had it, who wanted it, and who protected themselves from it. Marriage wasn't the headline anymore. Influence was. That reframing mattered because it pulled the focus away from sensationalism and toward structure. Industry insiders stayed vague, which only kept the conversation warm. Quiet nods, non-denials, statements about different times and complex environments. None of it confirmed anything. All of it suggested this story fit a familiar pattern. Patterns don't need proof to feel real. Media coverage thinned, but sharpened. Articles stopped chasing clicks and started offering perspective. The story moved from viral to reference. When future conversations about power and pop history arise, this moment will be cited not as evidence, but as context. Fans who initially treated the rumor like tea expressed fatigue. Not boredom, fatigue. The kind that comes from realizing how often success stories involve dodging traps instead of just climbing ladders. That realization doesn't explode. It settles. Beyoncé's continued silence read as intention. Not avoidance, not denial, control. In a landscape that demands reactions, refusing to engage can be the loudest move. Her career has always spoken louder than commentary. And this moment reinforced that pattern. Diddy's camp offered no dramatic rebuttal, no sweeping denial tours, no counter-narrative. That choice kept the focus diffuse. Without a focal point, conversations drifted toward broader industry critique rather than a single villain. Diffusion isn't resolution, but it's survival. The internet's humor dried up last. Jokes gave way to think pieces. Sarcasm turned reflective. When laughter leaves a conversation about entertainers, seriousness moves in and starts asking questions that don't go away easily. What lingered most was plausibility. Not truth, not proof, plausibility. The sense that stories like this sounded believable because of how the industry once worked. That feeling is harder to shake than a headline because it doesn't rely on receipts. It relies on memory. Destiny's Child didn't get recast as victims, and Beyoncé didn't get recast as naive. The narrative matured. It acknowledged skill, strategy, and self-preservation. It recognized that success at that level often requires saying no more than saying yes. By the end, there was no dramatic conclusion, no reveal, no confirmation. Just a collective understanding that pop history looks different when you examine who held the keys and who learned to build their own doors. Because legends survive scrutiny, but myths don't. And once a myth cracks, people don't stop loving the music. They just listen with better questions. Now it's your turn, because stories like this don't end with a headline, they echo. They resurface in interviews, lyrics, side comments, and moments people pretend are unrelated. If you think this was just a rumor passing through, you're missing how pop history really works. It doesn't erase itself. It waits. Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't tiptoe around them. Do you think this was exaggerated industry talk? Or does it say more about how power moved back then? What stood out to you, the rumor itself, or how believable it sounded? This comment section isn't for safe takes. It's for honest ones. Now smash that like button like it owes you money and duct the payment. Hit subscribe like you're locking in before the next hidden chapter gets pulled back into the light. Turn on notifications, because the next old story that suddenly feels very current is always closer than it looks. Here's the truth. Pop culture doesn't move in straight lines, and neither does Secret Scoop. While other channels chase what's trending today, we dig into what people forgot yesterday and connect it to why it matters now. If it's whispered, resurfacing, or hiding in plain sight, you'll find it here first. This isn't about tearing legends down. It's about understanding the industry they survived. And remember, before you click away, the music may be timeless, but the stories behind it always have more chapters. Secret Scoop keeps turning the pages. Scoop keeps turning the pages.